I've always really been into the technical side of carp fishing, especially rig camouflage, and I can remember years ago, before coating powders even came out, I used to paint my leads with Airfix paints to get them to match the lake bed where I was fishing. So naturally, when we started bringing out rig items, I made sure that they were in several different colours as well. First of all, the rig tube and the rubbers came out in green and brown, and then we brought the car key out a little while later. They proved to be extremely popular, and then the lead cores, when they came out in 3 colours as well. But it never brought it home to me more than when we started doing the underwater films. There you can see your very best rig just basically getting laughed at by the fish, and that's effectively forced us to get better and better at rig camouflage. And make no mistake, if the fish know they're being fished for, they are much harder to catch, and that's where Safe Zone came from. Basically, Safe Zone was like a buzzword for creating a safe area around your baited spot, so the rigs were blending in with the lake bed, so the fish just didn't know they were being fished for. Now the way we did that was we actually took samples of the lake bed and sent them to these people that manufacture the products, and they were getting like little Tupperware boxes full of goo in the bottom of them, bits of clay and gravel and weed and silt, and they were then matching the products exactly to those colours. So when we say something is a silty brown, it really is a silty brown. It's not just a nice brown that we've picked off of a colour chart. And the Safe Zone Leaders was probably the first of those products to be done in that way. So rather than sending us, like I say, a green, a brown, a khaki colour, they'd send us 6 of each colour, and I'd drop little pieces on top of a Tupperware box full of silt until I got exactly the right brown, and that became the silty brown. And then since then, any of the new products like the anti-tangle sleeves and the hybrid lead clips, they've been done to match those colours exactly as well. So anything that comes out in the range from now on will be available in all the colours to match all those ones already. And then older products like the rubbers and that sort of stuff, we've now made them transparent. The same thing with the lead clips. So basically you get a little bit of light passing through them, and that's exactly the same as what happens with the Safe Zone Leaders. They've got a 30-pound mono core, and then they've got a polyurethane coating on the outside with bits of tungsten actually melted onto them to drop them to the bottom. But most importantly, they're all slightly see-through. If you hold them up to the light, you can see the light coming through them. So not only are they almost the same colour as the lake bed you're dropping them on, they let a little bit of what the lake bed's showing through the leader, so it camouflages it even better. One common concern people have with the leaders is that their main line's biting into the leader and reducing the breaking strain. Well, that's not happening. Inside, as I've said, there's a 30-pound monofilament core, and the outside bit is just for colour. There's no strength to it whatsoever, and that's what your line's biting into, that polyurethane finish on the top of it. So if it is happening, don't worry about it. You're not ruining the leader at all. I'll use mine again and again and again, cut them off. If there's a little cut into that loop, I'll quite happily tie the line back onto it and fish with it with complete confidence. And all the metal items that we now do have all got a non-reflective finish on them as well. And again, that comes from the underwater films. We've seen every now and again there'll be one item of the rig which has got a tiny little glint to it. The fish will come into the swim, it glints in the sun, and the fish are away. So we've made a point of making everything non-reflective. And then hook link wise, well, we've had the IQ out for ages. The extra soft is out now. That's preferred by people with like a softer mono hook link, and underwater that is virtually invisible. It's available in 10 pounds breaking strain, which makes a really fine-tuned presentation, which Adam Penning loves, right up to 25 pounds, which is preferred by people like Leon Hugendijk, who's caught some massive fish from the continent on it. And then moving over to the hybrid, the coated material, that's available in 2 colours, a gravelly brown and a weedy green, and in the packet they look very, very similar. And that's the same with a lot of these products. In the shop, one's going to look very, very close to the other, but when you put them in the water, they look completely different. And that is the acid test. You've got to get your rig and drop it in the edge on something similar to what you're going to be casting onto. There's no good your rig blending in on a bit of gravel in the edge and then chucking it onto a bit of silt, because it's going to glow like a new penny. The khaki stuff's great on gravel, but terrible on dark coloured bottoms. So it really is up to you to get it exactly right for the different spots you're fishing. And sometimes I'll have 3 different coloured rigs on 3 completely different spots in the same swim on the same lake. And you need to put that into your own fishing if you're going to get the best from rig camouflage. I think hiding the main line is almost as important as hiding the rig. And in part 2 of the underwater series, we sent a diver out in the lake to film the lines, see what they look like underwater, and most importantly, see how much of them was lying along the bottom. Now, before he went out there, I would have said the last 10 yards of the mono, because it sinks, is always on the bottom. Well, that's not the case. And the reason for that is we all cast out, don't we? We sink the tip, to sink the line, then we put the rod on the rest and put on a bobbin straight away. And that keeps the line so tight that it has no opportunity to sink to the bottom. So what you want to be doing is paying a bit more line off before you put a bobbin on and allow the line to sink, or better still, add a flying back lead to the line. Now I've used flying back leads for years, but the thing that's always put me off them is that you can't take them on and off the line without cutting all the anti-tangle system off, re-threading all the tubing and doing everything again. So that's why I thought up the Safe Zone flying back lead. Now it's a two-part system. There's a plastic core that's got a split in it that you literally just clip on the line, and then the metal piece has got a split in it as well. You clip that on the line, push them together with the splits opposite, and then they can't come off. And it's available in 3 sizes, and that's because the heavier the flying back lead, the less distance it will come back. Now there's a parachute on the back of all of these which catches the air when you cast and pushes it back up the line. The heavier the flying back lead, the more effect it has on that parachute, slows it down so it doesn't come back so far. So the very small one's perfect for when you're fishing in the edge up to about 50 yards out. At 50 yards it will probably fly back 10 yards. But if you cast that same rig with that same flying back lead on 100 yards, it will come back maybe 50 yards. So then you want to be swapping over to maybe a medium or a large size flying back lead. You can also take them off the line and turn them around the other way, so the bullet nose is facing the tubing rather than the parachute, and then they come back even less distance. And the rule with flying back leads is the further they are away from the lead before you cast, the further they'll come back on the cast. So if it's just sitting on top of a Safe Zone leader, it will come back the perfect distance. If you double that by putting it on top of a little bit of putty that's been moulded on the line, it will come back even further. So if you're fishing right in the edge and you want the flying back lead to come back a long way, put a little bit of putty a couple of feet above the anti-tangle system and it will fly back even further. And Ali Hamidi's thought up a good little use for these since we brought them out, is to use them actually as a back lead. So once you've cast out, let the line go slack, clip it on the plastic piece and then put the metal piece on as well and slide it down the line, and then you've got a little tiny flying back lead on the line, pinning the line to the bottom right under the rod tip. Now I actually prefer to use a standard back lead, that's the 1/2 ounce version. I like the really small back leads because I use very small bobbins, and what I'm worried about with a heavier back lead is moving the lead as I actually slide it down the line. Now these will only work if the bottom's really flat. So if you've got bars or anything between you and where you're fishing, or weed beds, there's no point using them because the line's going from the flying back lead over the weed bed and then back down to your rig. So it's not really doing you any favours. So in that situation, I'll just use a flying back lead. And with all these kinds of things like back leads and flying back leads and all the different colours of rig components that are now available to you, there's no excuse to make sure the fish have no idea they're being fished for.